If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns have always been one of those teams that manage to spark debate, no matter what kind of move they make, and this latest quarterback shuffle is no exception. After months of speculation and rumors about whether they'd actually keep 4 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, the team finally reached a decision. The move saw Kenny Pickett heading out the door, shipped off to the Las Vegas Raiders just before the roster cut deadline. At first glance, it looks like a standard football business decision, the kind of thing teams have to do every season to tighten up their depth chart and free up room for positions of greater need. But in Cleveland, nothing is ever just business. Fans and analysts alike are now picking apart the logic, questioning the timing, the strategy, and whether this was the smartest way to handle what was once considered a genuine quarterback competition within the organization. From the perspective of Garrett Bush, a well-known analyst who's never been shy about speaking his mind when it comes to the Browns, this wasn't just a questionable move, it was an outright waste of time and resources. He ripped into the front office for essentially squandering an entire offseason's worth of reps on a player they had no intention of keeping long-term. In Bush's eyes, the real frustration isn't just that they traded Kenny Pickett for a modest return, a 5th-round pick, but that they did so after giving him what seemed like prime developmental opportunities. If the team truly valued Pickett and thought he had legitimate potential, then dealing him away so casually makes little sense. On the other hand, if they never fully bought in, then why dedicate so much practice time to him instead of focusing on grooming other quarterbacks on the roster who were more likely to play meaningful snaps when the season kicks off? Bush didn't hold back, pointing out that every rep matters in training camp and preseason, especially for a team like the Browns that is constantly trying to piece together some kind of stability at the quarterback position. He made the case that those valuable snaps could have been invested in someone like veteran Joe Flacco, who still needs time to settle into Cleveland's offensive system. Or they could have been poured into young quarterbacks like Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, giving them crucial early exposure to NFL speed and schemes. Instead, according to Bush, the Browns essentially ran in circles, letting Pickett take those snaps only to flip him later on for a pick that hardly moves the needle. In his words, the Browns are worse off now because not only did they fail to extract significant value from Pickett, but they also robbed the other quarterbacks of opportunities that could have accelerated their growth. Of course, there's another side to the story, one that paints Cleveland's decision-making in a slightly less chaotic light. Pickett wasn't exactly a full participant throughout training camp. The young quarterback struggled with a nagging hamstring injury that sidelined him for stretches, limiting the actual amount of time he spent on the field. That naturally complicates Bush's argument because it's not as though Pickett was dominating the playbook and stealing every rep available. Injuries are part of the NFL, and teams often have to juggle reps in ways that don't seem ideal. It's also worth noting that quarterback depth charts are notoriously fluid. A player who starts camp near the top can quickly fall behind if another quarterback flashes unexpected progress, and reports out of Berea suggest that Dillon Gabriel, in particular, may have been further along than many initially expected when the Browns first brought him into the fold. Timing, as always in the NFL, plays a massive role in trades like this, and that might explain why Pickett fetched only a 5th-round pick despite being a former first-rounder with a handful of starting experience. According to those close to the situation, there really wasn't much of a trade market for him until the Las Vegas Raiders suddenly found themselves in need of a backup after Aiden O'Connell went down with an injury. Sometimes trades aren't about what a player is worth in a vacuum, but about supply and demand in the moment. The Browns might have felt that holding on to Pickett for longer wouldn't have changed his value, and at that point, a 5th-round pick was better than nothing. From a purely transactional perspective, they turned a quarterback who no longer fit their vision into an asset they can use in the draft, even if it's not the kind of return fans were hoping for. Still, it's impossible to ignore the optics. Kenny Pickett came into Cleveland with at least some buzz, and there were genuine whispers that he could push for the starting role if things broke his way. That was always a long shot, of course, but even the mere possibility created excitement among fans and injected life into off-season debates. To see that optimism evaporate so quickly leaves many scratching their heads. Was Pickett ever really in the team's long-term plans, or was he simply a stopgap, An extra arm to make camp smoother? The contrast between the hope of what he could have been and the reality of what he became, a trade chip for a mid-round pick, underscores why so many feel the Browns mishandled this situation from start to finish. On the flip side, it's important to remember that not every quarterback reclamation project is destined to pan out. Sometimes, teams take flyers on players simply because the opportunity presents itself, and when it doesn't work out, they move on quickly. For the Browns, adding Pickett may have been one of those calculated gambles, the kind you make when you're trying to create competition and depth without tying yourself to any one player. In that sense, cutting ties after realizing he wasn't the answer could be seen as a smart move, a willingness to avoid doubling down on a bad bet. If they had held on to him just for the sake of appearances, they might have risked stunting the growth of quarterbacks they truly believe in. In a league where decisions are judged in wins and losses, sometimes the best move is simply acknowledging when it's time to pivot. Now, as the dust settles, the Browns' quarterback room looks more defined. Joe Flacco brings the veteran leadership and experience, someone who has seen it all and can at least keep the offense steady. Dillon Gabriel appears to be on an accelerated path, surprising coaches with his poise and command of the playbook, making him a strong candidate for the backup role. Shedeur Sanders, meanwhile, is still very much in development mode, but his raw talent is evident, and the Browns seem content to nurture him at a steady pace. In this light, trading Pickett clears the deck, removes the logjam, and allows the focus to be on the guys who are actually part of the future. That doesn't erase the questions about the process, but it does make the present picture a little cleaner heading into the season. As for Kenny Pickett himself, the move to the Las Vegas Raiders represents both a fresh start and a daunting challenge. For teams in 4 years is not the kind of trajectory that inspires confidence in a quarterback's long-term viability as a starter in the NFL. He'll now have to prove that he can adapt quickly, learn yet another system, and somehow find a way to carve out a role that keeps him in the league. For the Raiders, who were desperate after O'Connell's injury, Pickett brings at least some level of experience and upside, but expectations should remain realistic. He's not walking into a guaranteed opportunity. He's fighting for relevance in a career that's already teetering on the edge. Whether he seizes this chance or fades into journeyman status will depend largely on how he handles the adversity and whether he can recapture the flashes that once made him a first-round pick. In the end, this entire saga is a reminder of just how fragile and unpredictable the quarterback carousel can be in the NFL. One moment, a player is seen as a potential franchise cornerstone, and the next, he's shipped off for a mid-round draft pick with little fanfare. For the Browns, this chapter will likely fade into the long list of quarterback stories that have defined the franchise's modern history, full of what-ifs, near misses, and endless debates. For Kenny Pickett, it's another chance to prove the doubters wrong, though the window is rapidly closing. And for analysts like Garrett Bush, it's more fuel to criticize a team that never seems to make things easy on itself. Whether this decision ends up being remembered as a minor misstep or another symbol of Cleveland's dysfunction will depend entirely on how the season plays out, both for the Browns and for the quarterback they let slip away. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. It's official, folks, and the NFL world is already shaking with excitement. Trey Hendrickson is set to join forces with Myles Garrett, creating a defensive duo that could very well redefine the meaning of fear for opposing quarterbacks. When news like this breaks, you can feel the electricity in the air because this isn't just about one player moving teams. It's about two of the most relentless, violent, and technically gifted pass rushers of our generation stepping onto the same field with the same mission. Think about it. Garrett has been a nightmare for offensive lines since the day he stepped into the league, and Hendrickson has carved out his own reputation as one of the hardest-working sack machines in football. Put those two together and you have the recipe for absolute chaos, the kind of chaos coordinators lose sleep over, the kind of chaos fans dream of watching. The whispers began a few days ago, with rumors circulating through insider circles that a blockbuster move was brewing, but nobody quite believed it would materialize so quickly or with such certainty. Trey Hendrickson, after all, had built a solid foundation where he was, proving to be not only productive but also consistent, the type of player who doesn't just flash brilliance, he delivers it year after year. Pairing that with Myles Garrett, who has been the face of dominance on the defensive side for years, is almost unfair. Imagine the double teams. Imagine the stunts. Imagine the poor tackles and guards who will be asked to stand their ground against two forces of nature working in perfect unison. This is not a hypothetical anymore. This is reality, stamped with the word official, and the shockwaves are already reverberating through every locker room and film room across the league. What makes this move so dramatic is not only the sheer talent being combined, but also the timing. The NFL is entering an era where offensive fireworks dominate headlines. Quarterbacks put up video game numbers, and fans demand high-scoring spectacles every Sunday. But here comes a reminder that defense still wins championships. And when you put together players like Garrett and Hendrickson, you're sending a message loud and clear. Good luck throwing the ball. This pairing is designed to suffocate. It's designed to overwhelm. It's designed to flip games upside down in a single quarter, maybe even a single drive. Quarterbacks will have to cut their reads short, offensive coordinators will shrink their playbooks, and suddenly the balance of power shifts. That's how impactful two game wreckers on the edge can be, and the league knows it all too well. Fans are already lighting up social media, calling this the most terrifying pass rush tandem in recent memory. Comparisons are flying left and right, people mentioning legendary duos like Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, or even the glory days of Reggie White and Clyde Simmons. But the excitement around Hendrickson and Garrett feels different. It feels modern, it feels fresh, and it feels like something the NFL hasn't truly seen in years. Garrett's freakish athleticism, his combination of size, speed, and technique, paired with Hendrickson's motor, his explosiveness off the snap, and his uncanny ability to finish plays, creates a unique blend. They're not carbon copies of each other. They complement each other. Garrett brings that overwhelming, suffocating power, while Hendrickson brings surgical precision and relentless pursuit. Together, it's not just a duo, it's a nightmare equation no coach has ever solved. And that unpredictability is exactly what makes this official announcement so electrifying. Inside locker rooms across the NFL, there will be whispers of dread and sighs of frustration. Offensive linemen are creatures of habit. They prepare, they study film, they look for tendencies. But how do you prepare for two stars who thrive on destroying every plan you've crafted? Line coaches will need to decide who gets the double team, who gets the chip block, who gets the slide protection. Do you slide to Garrett and leave Hendrickson one-on-one? Do you focus on Hendrickson and risk Garrett bulldozing his way into your quarterback's chest? There's no right answer, and that's why this pairing is so devastating. It forces offenses into impossible choices, choices that almost always lead to mistakes. And in football, mistakes against players of this caliber are magnified tenfold. That's the burden every offense will carry from now on whenever they see this defense on the schedule. But let's not forget the psychological warfare aspect of this move. Football isn't just physical, it's mental, and this duo already wins the mind game before the ball is even snapped. Quarterbacks are going to step to the line of scrimmage already feeling the pressure, hearing footsteps that might not even be there yet. Coaches are going to hesitate to call those long-developing plays, those deep shots down the field, because they know the pocket simply won't hold long enough. Running backs will be forced to stay in for protection more often, shrinking the passing game even further. The ripple effects are endless, and all of them benefit the defense. That's what makes this so impactful. It changes not just individual matchups, but the entire flow of how offenses are structured against them. This is intimidation at its peak, and intimidation in football wins games before they even begin. On the flip side, teammates are rejoicing because moves like this elevate everyone. Interior linemen suddenly get one-on-one matchups they could only dream of. Linebackers have lanes cleared up to shoot gaps and make plays. Defensive backs will see rushed throws and panicked decisions, giving them more opportunities for interceptions. It's a domino effect, the kind of ripple that can turn a good defense into a legendary one. And you can already sense the buzz in that locker room, the understanding that they've just added a weapon that makes their jobs easier, that raises the ceiling of the entire unit. When talent like Hendrickson joins a player like Garrett, it's not just about sacks. It's about turnovers, momentum swings, and game-changing moments that shift seasons. And when you stack those moments together over the course of a year, you're talking about a path straight into playoff glory. Of course, The skeptics will ask about chemistry, about egos, about whether two alpha dogs can truly coexist in the same kennel. But if you followed these players' careers, you know neither of them has been about spotlight hunting or stat chasing. They've been about results, about winning, about playing the game the right way. Myles Garrett has always carried himself as a leader, someone who knows the weight of expectation and embraces it. Trey Hendrickson has built his entire career on grit, humility, and proving doubters wrong. These aren't players who clash. These are players who thrive when challenged. The fire burns in both of them, and instead of colliding, it's going to merge into something even stronger. Chemistry won't be a problem here. It will be the very fuel that makes this duo historic. The league has seen power moves before, but this one feels seismic because it's not just about a single season. It's about setting a tone for years to come. Think about the ripple effects on draft strategies, free agent decisions, and even quarterback contracts. Teams in the same division will have to rethink how they build their rosters. Offensive linemen will suddenly become premium assets. Backup plans will need to be devised, and every offensive meeting will begin with the same dreaded question. How do we stop Garrett and Hendrickson? It's not a short-term problem. It's a long-term nightmare, one that alters the balance of power in the league. And that's why this news isn't just a headline for today. It's a headline that could define the narrative of the NFL for seasons ahead. So, as the dust settles on this shocking official move, the NFL landscape feels altered. Fans are buzzing. Analysts are scrambling to recalibrate predictions. And somewhere, quarterbacks are quietly adjusting their internal clocks, knowing they'll have even less time in the pocket when they face this juggernaut. Hendrickson and Garrett, side by side, are more than just a duo. They're a statement. A statement that defense still matters, that brute force and refined skill can still tilt the game in a league dominated by offense. It's a reminder that football is as much about pressure as it is about precision. And when two of the best pressure generators in the world team up, the results will be unforgettable. Buckle up, because this isn't just a storyline. It's the birth of a nightmare for offenses everywhere, and it's officially happening. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!